We're going to start with our lotion in our hands and warming it before we apply it to the leg. Start up at the top of the leg and draw your lotion down so you don't have too much lotion on the foot itself. This is a good time to get acquainted. You can do some strokes of the toes so that you're doing a real nice lotion dispersing. After you get your lotion into the right consistency so it doesn't slide, we're going to begin with the spine. Remember to push the foot back and out away from you, cup the heel, and start at the heel. This is the base of the spine, tailbone. Remember when your thumb has stretched from your hand, turn your hand up. Continue on up with your hand traveling right along. When you get to the diaphragm line, support the great toe. We'll do that again. We're going to reverse and come down, supporting hand your left, your right thumb comes down. The hand travels with the thumb for support. Do it once again. And that's the spine. Now we're going to go to the neck reflex. We're going to support medial to lateral. We're going to do medial shoulder. This is between the shoulder blades. You can work this different directions. And now we're going to the lateral shoulder, out between the 4th and 5th metatarsal, and we're going to rock in. Make sure you're supporting the foot well. You're going to come right up. And as you work this outside edge, the furthest lateral edge, you're working the top of the shoulder arm. And rock in. It's very common to feel a lot of crunching. And that's just the uric acid, lactic acid moving around. We're going to next do the lung reflex and heart reflex, which sits between the 2nd and the 4th metatarsals. Support the foot back and away and move in with your thumb. You can work both directions here. Support with your left hand. Make sure the foot is back and come from lateral to medial. Because we walk here, this is a real good area to spend a little time in. This would cover the area here between the lungs and the heart reflexes. Then we have diaphragm, which sits right below. So we're going to press in, up and over, in, up and over. This is a very slight pull, not bending the toes. Start medial, press in, lift up and over, in, up and over. Then you can work this medial to lateral with a crawl, lateral to medial, and then diaphragm release. Squeeze in, squeeze in, squeeze. This is a nice time to put in a little relaxation technique, the diaphragm release. The next reflex we're going to work with is a kidney reflex. Make sure that you support the foot back and away. You find the lateral edge of the fifth metatarsal. Draw your line across. Then push the toes back. Feel for the tendon line, and you know you're going to be lateral of the tendon line, about 2/3 above and 1/3 below the waistline reflex. So with the foot back and now the toes are up straight, we're going to work across medial to lateral. Almost all reflexes begin medial and work lateral. This is a nice way for you to remember when you're working reflexes how to begin. After you've worked the kidney reflex medial to lateral, you can support the foot with your left hand and work lateral to medial. The more directions that you work, the better. Some directions will have more tenderness than others. Because the kidney reflex is so important in reflexology, I spend a little more time here. The next area in reflex we're going to be working is the bladder reflex, the ureter, and up to the kidney reflex. We're going to start, remember in the bladder reflex, if it's red in the lumbar, you know that bladder's involved. Kind of come in at an angle here, coming up under the reflex. And then you turn your hand and travel up the ureter tube to the kidney reflex. If people have congestion in the bladder or the kidneys, it's good to work all three of these together. In, travel up, right to the kidney reflex. The next reflex we're going to work is the large intestine colon. You find your base of your fifth metatarsal, draw your line across. This whole line becomes now the transverse colon, the descending, and into the sigmoid. So we're going to support and cup, come in with our left hand, making a V down and coming up. If it's more comfortable coming up, you can press the foot back and then come across. This would be the transverse, which we'll pick up on the right foot. Everything down in here is going to be small intestine. So we're going to work medial to lateral at diagonals all through this area for the small intestines. Making sure that the foot is back lifts the reflexes for your thumb. Always being mindful that the toes are not pressed back. You can work both directions, coming lateral to medial. Always in a diagonal. And back again. Go. We have the hip knee leg reflex on the lateral side. Nice half circle here. You can use both fingers and go right up in. And you're actually bending the distal end of your finger just like you do your thumb. So you're crawling here, you're not sliding. Make sure the foot is up and back and that you're working with your fingers deeply. Okay. This is a real good time after you've completed the area for the intestinal tract to work in some relaxation techniques. One of them would be the ankle side to side, where we get the foot flopping, roll right up and roll underneath. And we do this with a moderate pressure. We don't press real hard. Next one is pull your hands up, do the metatarsal flap. Side to side, you should hear the fingers flapping. Keep your hands in at the top of the foot here, right at the ball, and flop the foot back and forth. This feels very relaxing. Remember with your lotion to rub it into your hand so it warms the lotion before you apply. Apply at the top of the leg and draw the lotion down into the toes and the foot so you don't get too much to slide. You can do your toe stretch here where you alternate on the toes and rub the lotion right in and around the heel. This is also a real nice get acquainted time to work with the lotion in the foot. After you get everything into the right consistency, the foot goes back and out. We cup the heel and we start the spine on the right foot. Turn your hand up, follow. When you get to the diaphragm, as a guideline, this is when you take your support hand, supporting the toe so you can push against it without pushing it to the side. We'll do that again. We want to cup, foot is back and out, turn, change your support, and you work right to the base of the great toenail. Now we're going to turn and come down. We're going to support with our right hand, turn the hand up, start right at the base of the toenail, you're at the atlas again, and come down, supporting all the way with your right hand and following. Cupping, coming right down into the tailbone. We'll do that once more. Supporting with the right hand, starting at the base of the great toenail, and coming down. That's the spine. Remember in the transition of your spinal reflex, when you get to the top, take your hand, slide it in between the first and second metatarsal there to support the great toe, and then you can come down as a support. The next reflex we're going to work with is the neck. We start here at the medial edge and work across. Make sure you have the foot back and out, supported, and your thumb works medial to lateral. This is one where we do not work lateral to medial. Everyone has a good deal of pressure or tension in their neck, so this is a good one to spend some time with. From there, you're right in position to do between the shoulder blades. So we move here, medial to lateral at a diagonal. Now you can, in this reflex, support with your opposite hand and work lateral to medial. And then back medial to lateral. This is between the shoulder blades. The next area we're going to do is the lateral shoulder, and we're going to rock in on this reflex. We're trying to get between the fourth and fifth metatarsal. After we rock in, we work the flat bottom side with our thumb flat and crawling, and then we go to the outside lateral edge, which would be the top of the shoulder and top of the arm. Rock in. This is a very good reflex to feel uric acid and lactic acid congestion. Spend a little time with it. See if you can loosen this up. That is between the shoulder blades and the outside shoulder. The next reflex we're going to work is the lung reflex. It sits between the second and the fourth metatarsal. We've already worked between the shoulder blades and the outside shoulder. So we're starting medial to lateral at a diagonal. This is a really nice area to work because it is where we walk. And then you can work lateral to medial, keeping the foot back and away. After you've worked this reflex really well, and if you feel a lot of congestion, you can stay with it for a while longer. Then we're going to go to the diaphragm reflex, which is right across here. We're going to start at the medial and pull up and over just a little bit. Push in, up and over, in, up and over, in, up and over. Now, as you start with this, you start medially and you work across. When you get right in this mid area, this is a solar plexus, so that could be a little more tender in that one. Just be mindful and careful. You can also crawl across here, and then you can support and crawl back from lateral to medial. This is a good time to incorporate the diaphragm release. Push in and squeeze, just a little. Push in and squeeze, in and squeeze. That's the diaphragm release. The next reflex we're going to do is the kidney reflex. You want to draw your thumb down the outside lateral edge to the base of the fifth metatarsal and draw your line across for the waistline. Tilt the toes back to feel where the tendon line is, and you have a good visual now of where the kidney reflex is. The kidney reflex will always be lateral to the tendon line. It's about 2/3 above and 1/3 below the actual waistline reflex. After you have your visual indicator, you can start working in medial to lateral at a diagonal. This is a really important reflex in reflexology, so we spend a little time in it because it does release the uric acid and it filters the uric acid and lactic acid from the body. From here, we're going to go into the bladder reflex, and we go in at an angle just a little bit. Remember, if this reflex in the lumbar region is red, that's going to be an indicator for the bladder reflex, having some congestion. And then we're going to turn and move right up the ureter tubes to the kidney reflex again. If people have trouble with kidney infections or bladder infections, this is a really good reflex area to work. You can work this from both directions, making sure the foot is back and away, which lifts the reflexes, making it easier for your thumb to reach in. Next is the liver gallbladder reflex, and this is a very large area from the waistline to the diaphragm, so you get your visual here. Covers all of this area in here. So you start immediately and you work across. Keep the foot back and away and work right across this whole area. The liver is one of the largest organs of the body. It's important that we cover this area well. You can work both directions, lateral to medial, medial to lateral. You want to cover this area really well. Now we're going to look for the actual gallbladder reflex within the liver reflex, and you're going to draw a line here right from the 4th meridian down, and it's about 1 inch below the diaphragm line. We come in as a crawl, but we're doing a little bit of a torque in here so that you can feel for the actual reflex of the gallbladder. Be mindful and careful when you do this. Watch your client's eyes. You don't want to work too hard on this reflex if it's sensitive. If it's very sensitive, you can make a circular motion here and work into it. After you've worked the liver and gallbladder reflex, this is a real nice time to incorporate some relaxation techniques. You might here do the metatarsal flap, come down and do the ankle side to side. Whenever you find an area of congestion and you've worked on it, it's nice to give a little bit of relief and relaxation here. So we incorporate those two after a large area has been worked. Next, we're going to go to the large intestine, which the second half of the transverse colon and the ascending colon. We have descending on the left foot and we have ascending, which goes up against gravity here on the right foot. You don't have to work this in the direction that the bowel functions. You work medial to lateral, lateral to medial. We can come across the waistline reflex, which is going to be covering the transverse colon. And as we come down into the heel reflex, we're getting the small intestine as well as the large intestine. Now, one area we really want to search out, it's very important, and that's ileocecal valve. In this area, it sits just above the heel line, and we're going to hook in to find this reflex. This also could be very tender, so we want to be mindful when we work in this reflex that we don't work too deeply. A few stimulations is good for that. Then we go back to the small intestine and the bowel reflex. You can work both directions on this reflex. Remember, your supporting hand always pushes the foot back and away. Finishing up on your client's foot, you want to just do a few light strokes. This is a nice way to just finish up and release the energy and brush off, and that completes your level 1.